this. So for today, we're going to be solving for a side. I see a question mark there, and I'm going to be solving for that. But what we are going to be using, we call this the angle bisector rule. Angle bisector, basically, there is an angle that is going to be cut in half, which you guys can see there. I cut that angle in half, right? It looks like two halves. The two measurements are equal. So that definitely I marked it. I cut it in the middle. There is going to be a rule. Okay, so the way we're going to do this, let me just draw this. Let's say I have a triangle there. There's a triangle, and I cut the angle in half. There's one angle that I cut in half. Basically, I created two triangles. For this moment, let me just label my sides, right? There's two triangles. Let me label the sides in letters because I'm going to use a formula. I'm going to come out with the formula. Let's say this measurement right here, it is A, B, C, and D. I'm not going to use the segment that the triangles share. I'm not going to use that. Again, this is, I cut an angle in half. So we call it the angle bisector rule. The measurement, the way we do this, actually, I'm going to create a proportion. Proportion is a fraction. Two fractions equal each other. And we know how to do proportions. But cross multiply, it helps us a lot. The formula I'm going to use is going to be A over D is equal to B over C. Notice I label all my sides A, B, C, D. And I'm going to go A over D equals B over C. Now on our homework, is our triangle going to be flipped? Of course. Of course it's going to be flipped. Notice how I just basically did a fraction here. A over D is equal to B over C. So now here, number 25. We're going to be looking on our notes, question number 25. Let me solve for right now. Let me solve for this A. I know there's a question mark there, and eventually I'm supposed to solve for that one. But for right now, I can only find the measurement of one of my triangles, right? Of the two small triangles. The way I'm going to solve for that A, I'm going to go A over 2 is equal to 2 over 4. Notice I did my fraction there. A over 2 is equal to 2 over 4. Cross multiply, solve for X. Simplify your numbers, so they're kind of big. I don't think I need to simplify. I'm just going to cross multiply it. 4 times A is 4A. 2 times 2 is 4. When I divide both sides by 4, I get that A is equal to 1. So this measurement is 1. That's not quite the measurement I needed to answer. So if this was a question on my homework or my quiz, and I type in 1 as the answer, I'm not quite, it's going to mark it incorrect because I'm not quite done. Now, I see what I'm solving for. That this question mark, which we usually call X, I said yesterday, when we don't know the value of something, we replace it with the letter. It's usually X. The funny thing is that measurement is this whole side right here. Part of it is 2, part of it is 1. I'm going to say this measurement is 3. That's it. Now let's take a look at number 26. I'm going to zoom out in a few minutes, so you guys will be able to see all the questions, all the work that we're doing. You guys will be able to see them. So now let's take a look at number 26. My X, this question mark, it's part of my triangles. When I say triangles in plural, I'm talking about the two triangles inside. It is part of my triangles, so I'm going to be able to solve for X right now. The way I'm going to do my proportion here, I'm going to write 4 over 5 is equal to X over 15. Notice how there's a fraction here, and I just did my equals. 4 over 5 is equal to X over 15. Simplify if you need to. Cross multiply whenever you want. Remember, when I say simplify, it doesn't have to be on the top of the fraction. I see 4 over 5. Nothing I can do. Sideways, 5 and 15 I could. I'm not going to simplify. I think it is enough. Now, I have a question here for the previous question. Is it what will the answer be for everything? Is it A or the question mark? It is the question mark. The answer will be the question mark. I needed, let me come back to this question. I needed an A because X was not part of my two small triangles. So I needed to solve for another side before I solve for my question mark. Now here, number 26, the question mark, which I'm calling X, question mark is part of the triangles. So I'm gonna be able to solve for X right away. And I can say we can simplify sideways, the 5 and 15, or we can just cross multiply. My case, let me just cross multiply. 5 times X is 5X equals 4 times 15, that's 60. Now, to get the X by itself, let me divide both sides by 5. So X is going to be 12. Again, now I was able to solve for X right away because X is part of my small triangles, right? The question mark is part of my small triangles. Let me take a look at number 27. X is part of my small triangle, so which is good. I can solve for X. The only bad thing is that I need the other small part of my triangles. This little part, let me call it 10 minus X. Okay, so that little part, I'm gonna call it 10 minus X. Let me emphasize this is X. Calling it 10 minus X because notice how in blue, the whole thing is 10. A little part was X. I know we talked a few days ago that when we're finding a small measurement, given a big measurement, right, we subtract the values given. Remember, you have two small measurements and a big one. If you're finding one of the two small measurements, you go the big measurement minus the small one given. All right, so now let me write this as X over 10 minus X is equal to 8 over 12. I'm solving for X. I will be able to solve for X here. All right, so now the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to cross multiply. I can simplify if necessary. As a matter of fact, let me simplify. 8 over 12. 8 over 12, we can do better, right? 8 over 12, let me divide each by 4. So it's going to give me 2 over 3, just to deal with smaller numbers. Now let me cross multiply. When I go this way, 3 times X, that's just 3X equals. When I go this other way, because of the minus, because part of my, when I cross multiply, part of my fraction has a minus or a plus, in this case, a minus. The 2, the numbers by itself, I want to go 2 times 10 and 2 times X. So it's going to give me 20 minus 2X. It is okay to have X's on both sides of the equal sign, right? Back in algebra, we learned how to solve for a variable. We separate the sides through the equal sign. We want the letters on the same side. And I see there's a 3X on one side, there's a negative 2X on the other side. I'm going to move one of them because I need the X's to be combined, right? In Algebra 1, we learn a lot about combining like terms. So this negative 2X, I'm going to move it to the other side as a positive 2X. Every time we move something from one side to the other side, we got to switch the sign. So that gives me that 5X. So I combine my X's. 5X is equal to 20. All right, I'm almost there. Let me divide both sides by 5. So I get that X is equal to 4. Again, you don't have to type in on your homework or your quiz X equals, just 4. Now looking at number 28. X, right, the question mark, which is the one I usually call X, is not part of my small triangles. There's a couple things I can do. One, I can call this side that I'm missing, I can call it A. I can call it A, solve for A. Even though my question here it is, I have to find out what X is. I'm going to solve for another variable, solve for A. So that's another one case we can do this. And I wanted to show you that that is a possible way. But my first example from today, that's basically what we did. I can solve for an A, which is another number. And for me to solve for X, I'm just going to go 6 plus the value of A. All right, that's one way we can do that. Another way we could do this, like I said, we could do that, right? X will be 6 plus A. Obviously, solve for A. Find out the value of A first. I have on the chat here, somebody said, yeah, X equals 6 plus 8. Yes. But remember, got to find out the value of A first and then be able to solve for X. Another way we can do this, I'm going to say, well, I really want to solve for X right away. X, the whole measurement X is not part of my small triangles, but that side that I'm missing, I can also call it X minus 6. It's another way. And we just did that previous example when there's a plus or minus as part of it. And this is the way I'm going to do it. Actually, we can solve for A. We can solve for 8 and then plug it in. 6 plus A will give us X. Or we can just call this little side X minus 6 and immediately solve for X. All right. I have a person here that already gave me the answer for X. We'll see. The way we're going to do this, I'm going to say it, all right, 20 and 8, right? That gives me a fraction. 20 over 8 is equal to X minus 6 over 6. You guys can see my fraction there. Okay, I'll get to you and I have a right person right here. Remember, I always read the questions on the chat. Just never say who they come from. Person here is wondering is X is equal to 1. We'll see. We'll see right now. I'm going to say I don't think so, but we'll find out. All right, let me simplify if possible. 20 over 8. Let me simplify that. Let me divide each by 4. So that gives me 5 over 2. Now I'm going to be able to cross multiply. 6 times 5. I'm going to go the easy multiplication first. 6 times 5 is 30. So that's not bad. Now here, the number by itself, so the 2, it goes 2 times X minus 2 times 6. So I have 30 is equal to 2X minus 12. Okay. Now, I want the X's together. So I separate my sides. I only have an X on one side. This negative 12, I'm going to move it to the other side as a plus 12. Good, good. So I have that 42 is equal to 2X. Okay, almost there. To get the X by itself, let me divide by 2. So X is equal to 21. There, we were solving for X. X equals 21. Good. Now, if we use the other method that I mentioned at the beginning, if we could, can you do the other way? Sure. Let's do the other way. Let me erase this. We know the answer now. X is going to be 21. However, let me do this other way here. The other way was, because I had a person here ask, can you do the other way? Sure. I said, let's call this A, right? What I'm solving is for X. I have to solve for A first. And then I'm pretty sure right now A is going to be 15. But let's see. The way I'm going to do this will be 20 over 8 is equal to A over 6. And then I'm like, all right, 20 over 8. Yeah, let me simplify that fraction. 20 over 8. Let me divide each by 4. That gives me 5 over 2. So when I cross multiplied, I'm going to get that 30 is equal to 2A. All right, you guys follow along. 30 is equal to 2A. Divide both sides by 2. 15 is equal to A. So we just found out that A is equal to 15. The big thing here, if you're going to use this route, make sure that you remember which letter you're solving for, A or X. The initial question mark was X. So we're solving for X. So don't think that, oh, A equals 15, we're done. No, for X, you have to go 6 plus 15 is equal to X. So I think we can agree that X is equal to 21. Don't forget to plug it in. Okay, so I showed you both methods. Again, Common Core, the phrase Common Core is awesome. I can show you various ways on how to do it. You do it the way you're comfortable with. That's what Common Core means. I show you various ways. You do whichever one you want. All right, now let's move on to this next topic, number 29. Find the missing length. The triangles in each pair are similar. All right, because they are similar, angles are equal and sides are proportional. I do have two triangles in here. There's two triangles. One of them, I see here in red. As a matter of fact, I have three sides of that triangle. Let me move this to the side. I have three sides of the triangle, X, 7, and 8. Right, that question mark, I call it X. X, 7, and 8. I have three sides. To be honest, I only need two. Right, but there's three. I got choices. There's another triangle. There's a big triangle. This blue triangle that I'm going to highlight. Let me actually go over it. There's a blue triangle, and the measurements of the blue triangle are 40, 28, and 32. All right, what I'm going to do from the red triangle, I'm going to use two sides only. So I got choices. For sure, I have to use X. So I'm going to use X. From the other two sides, it doesn't matter which one I use. I'm going to use 7, just to use 7. And I'm going to write a fraction. X over 7 equals. Okay. Then the second part is going to come from the blue triangle. X is corresponding with 40. Notice how X is on the same side with 40. So X goes with 40. 7 goes with 28. Again, I only need two measurements. Now I can easily just cross multiply, simplify whenever I want. Let's say I have the use of a calculator, so I'm not going to worry about simplifying. We can simplify, but remember, you don't have to simplify. The important thing is cross multiply. You simplify just to deal with smaller numbers, but you can cross multiply whenever. Let me cross multiply already. Because I have big numbers, but I have a calculator. So it's fine. I can deal with big numbers. 28 times X, 28X equals 40 times 7, 280. Let me divide both sides by 28. X equals 10. Remember, just type in the number, just 10. We could have simplified just to deal with smaller numbers. My answer will be the same. Take a look at number 30. I have a red triangle. And then I have a blue triangle. I see a 40 degrees. There's my numbers. I'm gonna include angles sometimes just to see if you get the idea, right? The angles, the measurement of the angles are not needed. Let me emphasize that again. The measurement of the angles are not needed. Here I have, what if you use 8? Oh, coming back to number 29. Coming back to number 29 is, if I use 8, kind of like what question here says, if I went and said X and 8, because I have to use X and 8, X goes with 40, but 8 goes with 32. You cross multiply and you're going to find out that X is equal to 10. So it will be fine. Remember, you have choices. Coming back to number 29, somebody asked, well, what about the 8? Can I use the 8? Yeah, you have choices, but you only need two sides per triangle. Two sides, not angles, two sides. Again, coming back to number 30. Sometimes I will include angles. I see 40 degrees and it's the same number. Earlier I said triangles, when they are similar, they must have the same angles. So to be honest, this 40 degrees is not needed. It is just there just to confuse you, just to see if you get the idea. Some of you will try to use the 40 on your work. It's not there for you to use. Remember, angles have to be the same. We were told they are the same. All right, so from the red triangle, I have two measurements, right? The question mark, I always call it X. So my measurements are X and 84. Don't have that many choices now. So I have to use X and 84. I have to use two measurements. And then on the other triangle, I have 60 and 55. Now, one thing here, when the triangles are separated, I could have flipped the triangle. We don't know. Now, I'm going to say 60 from the blue triangle is going to go with the bigger side from the red triangle. If you guys can tell that if X is bigger than 84, X goes with 60. But if 84 is bigger, then X goes with 55. Now, sometimes we cannot tell. Like I said, if you can tell, like I said, if X is bigger, X goes with 60. If X is smaller, X goes with 55. If you can tell, great, we can just move on. But what if we cannot tell? I'm going to use it, what if? What if we cannot tell if X is bigger? I'm going to include some measurements there. I'm going to include a statement there to help you out. I notice that X is the measurement DC, right? The letters D and C. So I look at the statement and I said, well, those are the first two letters of one triangle, right? The letters C and D are the first two letters of one of my triangles. So they have to go with the first two letters of the other triangle, which is the measurement KL. Now, KL is 55. So X is smaller than 84. Except if X was bigger, I would have said X goes with 60. But X is smaller. Like I said, if we cannot tell, use the measurements. The measurement CD goes with KL. So X goes with 55. So that means that 84 goes with 60. Okay. That's what the statement is up there for, to help you guys out. You will have the statement a lot. Let me come back to number 29. We didn't have the statement because we didn't need it, but you will have the statement in case you need it, okay? Now we can cross multiply. I will simplify. This time I will simplify. Like I said, we don't have to. Let me simplify. I could simplify top and bottom, 55 with 60. Let me divide each by 5. So that gives me 11 over 12. Have a question on the chat? We'll find out. We'll find out right now. So let's see. Have an answer here. It says, is X equals to 77? We'll find out. Let's see, cross multiplied. 12X. 84 times 11. It is 900. Let's see, 84 times 11. Again, 924. Let me divide both sides by 12. And I get X equals 77. So I like to read the questions on the chat. Don't like to mention the names. So yeah, X equals 77. Awesome. This person did get it right. Okay, let's take a look at number 31. I'm going to work up until 32. So I have a red triangle. And I have the measurement 6, 7, and X. Remember the question mark, I call it X. And then I also have a blue triangle. My measurements are 12, 14, and 16. From the red triangle, I'm only going to use two measurements. X has to be one of them because I'm solving for X. The other measurement, it doesn't matter if you choose 6 or 7. Either one, it doesn't matter. Just to choose one, I'm going to choose 6. So X goes with 16 from the blue, and 6 goes with 12. I can simplify. I can simplify top and bottom, 16 and 12, but I can also simplify sideways, 6 and 12. Let me divide each by 6, so I get 1 and 2. So I can simplify top and bottom, but I can also simplify sideways. The only way I cannot simplify is diagonal, because that's how I multiplied. So 2 times x equals 16 times 1. Divide both sides by 2. X equals 8. From the red triangle, one of the sides has to be x because I'm solving for x. The other side, it doesn't matter which one. I chose 6, but it could have been 7. Just make sure if you choose 7, 7 goes with 14, right? 6 goes with 12, 7 goes with 14. All right, let's take a look at number 32. Same idea. I have a red triangle. One of my measurements is x. So I'm going to use x. So I have to use x because I'm solving for x. The other measurement, it doesn't matter if I choose 10 or 8. Just to choose one, let me choose 10. It doesn't matter which one. I have another triangle, a blue triangle here. My measurements are 30, 25, and 20. X goes with 30, and 10 goes with 25. I can simplify 30 over 25, I can divide by 5. Even sideways, 10 and 25, I can divide by 5. So I can simplify, or I can cross multiply whenever. Just to emphasize that you can cross multiply whenever, I'm going to cross multiply already. 25 times x is 25x. 30 times 10 is 300. Let me divide by 25. X is equal to 12. Let me zoom out. The work that we did today. Let me zoom out where you guys can see it.